Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Open eCry market commentary for the week of March 18th. My name is Toby Gennaro from Trade with Precision, and just taking a look at the markets to see what's on tap this week. And looking here at the S&P 500 and the ES futures contracts, you can see on some of these lower time frames the large gap down that we have occurring right here. Some news came out over the weekend on the Cyprus bailout. If you guys have been looking at some of the news there. And you can read up on that, but they're looking to basically deduct a tax from all the deposit holders at all the banks, and in order to pull together a bailout for the country. So that's creating some uncertainty in the markets. We're getting a large sell-off because of that. And so just looking here at just some of the technicals as we normally do. The technicals are still going to be valid on some of these major trends, and we're going to get some of these deeper pullbacks. And they're going to happen off typically some uncertain news. And so looking at the monthly chart, we're been flirting right up against that 1530 level. It went up as high as, I believe, right around 1557 was the high there. And so we still have about a week and a half left on the charts here to close out that candle on the monthly chart. So that's really not going to tell us a whole lot, but we certainly can see that level there right around that 1530 level. That the market really hasn't been able to get a run up through. So we've broken through up to 1557, but if we end up closing lower, we could get a pretty nice rejection candle there for the month of March. Moving over to the weekly chart, you can see we have just a first bearish candle coming into play there, looking like we might get a pullback down into the 10-period moving average, maybe a little further as we move into the daily chart. We can see we have that pullback as we were discussing last week, this 1530 level. We actually did, based on this news, get a pullback right into that level, puts us right in and among that buy zone on the 10-20 period moving average. The last time we pulled back a little bit below that. So we might get some kind of a bounce here off this 1530 level, and then we might get another rollover for a second leg down, which might take us to something a little deeper. And we can see that a little bit more pronounced on the 480-minute chart, and you can see that 1530 level has a couple of various levels of support there over the last couple of weeks that makes it a fairly good level of support. And as we go down, one way to kind of start to judge some of that is start to look for some divergence. We can get a solid support level. We can start to get some divergence set up, like I'm looking right here on the 15-minute chart. We actually have 3 lower lows right here. And on the last lower low, we actually get a higher low on both the indicators. So just kind of ever so slight on the RSI, but nevertheless, it is a higher low. So we could get a little pop, at least back into some of these other levels, like around 1536. More than likely, what I'm looking at is a Fibonacci retracement right here. We could more than likely get back into this 1542 level, and there's a 1551 level. So depending on how all the news shakes out tomorrow at the open on Monday is really going to depend on what the market does here. So I really be looking for a trade setup right here at these levels around 1530, being with all the news that's out. I'd want to look for a better setup to kind of figure out what the markets might be doing. So we might get a rally back up into this 1540 level, which would overlap very nicely with that 1542. It gives us a 50% retracement, and then we might get a rollover back to the downside. If the market shrugs off this Cyprus news, we might get a move all the way back up to close the gap, all the way back up here to this 1551, 1552 level. So difficult trading on these kind of news events, but as you can see on the daily chart, this is just a normal pullback right back into the buy zone on the daily chart, and that's typically what we're looking for. All we need is just a setup candle to confirm that move. Once we get the setup candle, then we can look to maybe start to get long that market. But for right now, we're looking to be pretty cautious this week, just to see what comes out here, and letting the Cyprus news kind of flush out over the next 24 to 48 hours, and then start to look for a trade setup. So that's kind of what the ES is looking like in terms of the stock markets, and we'll probably know a little bit more in the morning when the market opens as to what's going to happen there, and if the market's going to continue lower, or if we're going to get a bounce off this 1530 level. Moving over to the small cap stock, looking at the Russell contract here for the Russell 2000. On the monthly chart, not really telling us a whole lot. That flat level break, nice move up here, topped out at around 951 was the high, and so still looking at a pullback even on the monthly chart here. It'd be a longer term move, but looking for a pullback to that 860 level would be fairly reasonable within this trend, depending upon how this news shakes out in the eurozone. And then looking at the weekly chart, we just had a nice setup candle there. Got a couple of week move off of that. We got the first bearish candle start up opening up this week, but that's not going to close out for another 5 days. And then looking at the daily chart, we can see that we got a pullback just right back into that 10-period moving average, right up against that resistance point or that support level right at 933. And then the next most likely support level will be somewhere around 911, and then beyond that you'd be looking somewhere around 890. So a couple different support levels there to look at on the daily chart, but really just a standard pullback here back into the moving averages. The last time we got a pullback on the daily chart, it was a little deeper than the moving averages. So based on the news, we're probably going to look at what the markets do at the open tomorrow. Look at and just allow all this news to play out, similar to the ES futures contracts, before we start looking for trade setups. This 933 level looks to be a pretty solid level, which is really where we're at right now. And if we go down to some of the lower time frames, we can start to kind of build a little bit of a case around some kind of a bounce here at 933. So I've got a couple of different levels drawn in here over the last several weeks of trading, and I just have a Fibonacci drawn in at this most recent level of 922 all the way up to the high here of 951. And if I do that, then the pullback scenario is basically the 50% level is right here at 936, and then the 62% level overlaps really nicely at 933, and it just overlaps all this support right at that level. So that could certainly be right here we're at right now. Could be a nice bounce, and you could actually get a gap close going into the market open tomorrow. But those are not very reliable trades when we're looking at significant news like this. So we're really looking to see how the market reacts at the open, and really wait and be patient and look for an actual setup. So if the market shrugs off this news and really makes a strong move back up to the top, more than likely we can start to look for some trades going long. But more than likely, I think this is going to be maybe a little longer consolidation in here. And once some of this news kind of gets ironed out in the markets, we'll have a little clearer picture on which way to go. Still bullish on the market, but just cautious right now and looking at some of these charts. And then a foreign currency pairing here based on some of that news out of the Eurozone, looking at the euro dollar. As you can see on some of these other time frames, pretty big gap down on this foreign currency pairing, actually putting in a brand new low. And so we have, on the monthly chart, we have really a consolidation between this level of 1.5 all the way down to this 121 level. And so we're looking to make a break. It looked like back up to the top of that range. And so we're still within a trend here, even on the higher highs, higher lows, even on the monthly chart. We don't have the moving averages in alignment. They're actually fanning to the downside. So there's a little contradiction there. But on the weekly chart, we do have the 50, the 20, and the 10 in order. We have higher highs, higher lows, and this looks to be a pullback here with a nice setup candle right there. We're looking at that green candle, but we just got a break of the low of that candle right here, which really invalidates the trade setup for us. So we're really looking for another setup candle, even on the weekly chart. And as we look down on the daily chart, we still have a lot more conflict here. The moving averages are, essentially fanning out to the downside. And the same here, a little more pronounced on the 480 charts. As you can see on all of these charts, things are really kind of mixed up. So really not looking to engage in any trades around news related to the euro dollar. As we move down on some of the other lower time frames, we can see that pronounced move just grinding lower to the downside, and then that big gap that we're looking at right here. So the only thing that you might be looking for would be, I drew a Fibonacci retracement from from the most recent high at 131 down to the most recent low currently right around that 128.7 level, 128.8 level, and the 50% retracement puts you right in around that 130 level. And as you scroll back, there's quite a bit of resistance right around that level, so quite a bit of congestion there. That'd probably be the most reasonable place to get involved in, in potentially a short going with the majority of the charts. But for the most part, I wouldn't be looking to trade these charts. I'd be waiting for some of the news to settle out related to Cyprus and that bailout tomorrow on Monday, and then taking a look at the markets once again, and then looking for a valid setup. This market couldn't continue further down, or we could get a bounce back up here. There's really just no way to tell in looking at the charts based on the news that's out currently. So no real trade setup there, no real trend. Just want to show you guys some different things on how we're looking at the markets and how we make some of these determinations. And this is one that really would equal a no trade until we get some little more clear definition of what's actually going on in Cyprus and how the market's going to react to that information, and then going back in and looking for then a valid trade setup with a really nice smooth flowing trend, something like this, and then looking to follow that trend with the momentum. So I'd like to thank you for watching the Open eCry market commentary for the week of March 18th, and we do look forward to speaking to you next week on the Market Update.